You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, last night, New Hampshire, Senator Bernie Sanders won 9 delegates with 25% of the vote coming in first. South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg, former mayor, he got 9 delegates. Amy Klobuchar, she gained 6. That's how they ended up. Sanders first, Buttigieg second, Klobuchar third. Elizabeth Warren from the neighboring state of Massachusetts came in fourth, surprising to many people. Vice President Joe Biden came in fifth, then Tom Steyer, then Tulsi Gabbard. Of course, the results led to 2 folks dropping out of the race, Andrew Yang, as well as former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick. He had put lots of time and energy and resources into Massachusetts, got like 0.3% of the vote, didn't do well. Today he announced that he's out. Andrew Yang dropped out last night, saying it made no sense to keep running and taking resources and time away from the other candidates, and the focus should be on Donald Trump. Coming up next, of course, is Nevada. That's the next caucus taking place. The next primary is going to be in South Carolina a week later. Of course, the debate next week is also in Nevada. It's going to be the first time that Michael Bloomberg is going to be on stage with the other candidates. Trust me, they're all gearing up to go after him. Joining us right now is Briahna Joy Gray, National Press Secretary for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Got to ask you, Briahna, first of all, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Got to ask you, I mean, what do you make of all these folks in national media who say, oh, my goodness, Bernie Sanders, he squeaked out a win compared to 2016 when there was only 2 people running in 2016, and you literally have 7 or so people running in 2020.
It's pretty incredible. There are 9 candidates. Well, at least until yesterday, there were 9 candidates in this race. So, of course, the vote's going to be a little bit more fractured than before. What's really remarkable, the story is here, is that Bernie Sanders managed to win despite millions of dollars in Oppo ads being put against him, despite the fact that the healthcare industry has been running ads trying to muddy the waters around what Medicare for All means. They're terrified, right? Because the majority of Americans and the overwhelming majority of Democrats support Medicare for All. So what's remarkable is that even with that onslaught, he managed to win a decisive victory. And what's even more incredible is that we won by a bigger margin in Iowa, but that isn't being considered a win in the same way as this win in New Hampshire. But never mind, it was unprecedented for a candidate to win in the popular vote in both of those states, not go for it to win the general election. So we're feeling pretty good about it back at HQ.
And so obviously Nevada is next. You got a major culinary union there. They are not happy at all with Medicare for All. You look at the polling data from the folks at 538, the average, Joe Biden was leading in Nevada, but he has dipped in the past week and a half. Sanders has gone up. So you pretty much have Sanders and Biden at the top, and much further down you have Buttigieg, Klobuchar, and Warren as well. And so how are you going to deal with that whole issue where a lot of unions are not supportive of Medicare for All? They want to protect those hard-fought health care plans. So how are you dealing with that in Nevada?
Well, what's important to note is that Bernie Sanders has more union endorsements than any other candidate. As Bernie is known to say, he's walked more picket lines than most people in the race combined, right? So the reality is that there are some people at the culinary union and leadership who are, again, engaged in this conversation that's muddying the waters about what it means to have Medicare for All. But what's important to note, and for anybody who's in a union who's listening, what's important to note is that Medicare for All means that you no longer have to spend all of the time and resources negotiating for those healthcare benefits. And those benefits, there is a provision in the transition program that makes sure that any benefits that you negotiated for, that you might have traded some pay or other benefits for, will be grandfathered into any Medicare for All benefit going forward. So you will not lose out on anything. I think there are a lot of people who know that are making pretty disingenuous arguments. But what's really exciting about Nevada is that we are #1 with Latino voters. And you see the scrambling that's happening right now in this misinformation campaign exactly because other candidates haven't put in the work to be #1 with non-white voters the way that this campaign has done. There's been an incredible investment there, and you can't erase that by playing some of the rhetorical games that are being played right now.
You're also going to deal with the whole issue of how do you pay for it. That came up in the last debate. Senator Sanders still has not actually answered that question. We fully expect that's going to be a barrage of questions that come up in the Nevada debate before the caucus is there. Is he going to provide a breakdown of how he is going to pay for Medicare for All?
Well, I got to push back against that a little bit, because the reality is we are paying twice as much for our health care than every other industrialized country in the world. And they are getting free at point of service care in many cases. And we are still having to pay $10,000 to $20,000 a year in premiums. Plus, people are paying $1,000 to $7,000 in deductibles. So you're paying a high monthly fee that's adding up to $10,000 or $20,000 a year. And there are people who have health care but are not using it because they don't have enough money to pay their deductibles. And moreover, they don't have enough money to pay for the subscription, the copays in their subscriptions, that they actually go to the doctor and get filled. So the question that should be asked is, of every other moderate in the race, how going the system that we have currently, which is estimated to cost more than the system that we have right now. And how are you going to answer to the tens of thousands of Americans, 10 to 40,000 Americans who die every year because they cannot afford health care?
Right.
That is, Bernie Sanders has been asked and has answered the question of how we're going to pay Medicare for all over and over and over again. What isn't clear is how we're going to maintain the system, because the answer to that question is it goes in the backs of the average American voter.
But Briahna,
but
you just did what a doctor does. They diagnosed the problem, but you did not give a remedy. You laid out what the costs are. You laid out how much we spend. You laid out other countries other countries do. But the reality, though, is when you go to a Medicare for all, there's going to be a cost associated with it from the government side, whether or not you also pay for it when it comes to a tax increase. I understand why there's a reluctance to put a number on it, because when Senator Warren did that, she was nailed by folks left and right over the summer. And so, again, if you talk about an annual cost, though, do you have a number in terms of what it is going to cost the American taxpayer to fund a Medicare for all? So when we're having a conversation about the budget and where things come from, then we also can say how we actually pay for it.
What happened with Elizabeth Warren wasn't that she gave a number and people beat her over the head for it. It was that she was obfuscating about the fact that it's going to require a small tax increase, something about which Bernie Sanders has been very direct. So again, he said this on the debate stage and in numerous interviews over and over again. Yes, there will be a small tax increase for Medicare for all, but this ultimately is a program that is designed to lower healthcare costs for average Americans. So the small tax increase, and we're reluctant to put a number on it only because the math is very difficult and we don't want to mislead anybody or have anybody upset in the way that they were after the ACA was implemented, if you recall. And Obama made certain commitments that it ended up not being able to follow through upon. So we're wanting to be really deliberate and considered about this. But the point of the matter is a small tax increase. Sometimes scientists have estimated about 4%, but it wouldn't start until a higher income bracket. So people paying, I believe, under $30,000 a year would see no increase, and it would gradually increase in a progressive fashion, right? So the wealthier you are, the more you're paying. So that instead of paying $10,000, which is the average amount a single American pays for premium, or $20,000, which is the approximate amount a family pays for premiums, you're paying a few $1,000s, whatever the percentage of your income, about, a small single-digit tax increase that ultimately will mean you're paying less. And again, what you're getting for that is to be able to walk into a hospital, be treated, and walk out. And we can't underemphasize what we're talking about here. When we talk about the maternal mortality rate, we can sit around and say we really care about Black women, but you can't say you really care about women dying and babies who are dying if you aren't taking to the fact the number one predictor of a maternal health gap, the racial health gap there, is that Black women aren't able to get prenatal care.
Gotcha.
They are less likely to be insured. They are more likely to be on Medicaid and get substandard treatment, and they're less likely to get postnatal care. And they're also more likely to have to go right back to work without taking the time they need to care for themselves and their children. So we want to solve these problems holistically, and it's going to require these kind of universal programs that Bernie Sanders is proposing.
But you also said we are reluctant to put a number on it. Then you also talked about what some experts could say that's not specifically coming from the campaign. But that's still, trust me, that's going to be an issue that moves forward, because again, as you're talking about it, you have other candidates who do not agree with Medicare for all, and you do have people who are leery about that. I got to ask you this question here. This is the last question because I am going to 2 other campaigns as well. And that is, obviously, Senator Bernie Sanders does extremely well with young African-American voters. But you look at what is happening with Vice President Joe Biden. He does well with African Americans who are middle age and older. How is Senator Sanders going to make this appeal to older black voters going to South Carolina, where African Americans are likely to make up 60% of all voters in the Democratic primary in that state?
Well, I'm really heartened to have, read recently that we closed the gap in South Carolina already to only 5 points. So I think that what we have successfully managed to do is make people a little bit more aware of what Joe Biden's record on the issues that Black Americans have said we care about the most are. And chief among those issues, in addition to health care, which is what we hear door to door, is that Black Americans are disproportionately suffering, and as I'm sure you know, from a whole host of health care concerns that are coupled with the economic pressure.
Did I lose?
And Joe Biden has tried to kind of skate around this, but over and over again over the course of his career, he has voted to and run on the promise of cutting Social Security and raising the retirement age, both which would enormously disproportionately affect Black Americans. We know that upward of 90% of African American seniors rely on Social Security for 50% of African American seniors rely on Social Security for 90% or more of their entire retirement income. So this isn't an issue that can just be poo-pooed away. And we're seeing that our ground game, our 90% Black staff in South Carolina, the fact that the senator has done 60 events in South Carolina already, all of these are making people there much more familiar with him than they were in 2016, and we're already seeing the results.
All right.
These are both planning to earn, not just to count on as a firewall without really doing the work.
All right, Briahna Gray, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, are you looking to enhance your leadership or that of your team in 2020? If so, you should join Dr. Jackie Hood Martin's newest online course and mastermind group, How Successful People Think. She will be your guide as you learn timeless leadership principles to apply to daily living. The offer expires February 28th. To register or start the online course, go to www.live2lead.com/Leesburg. That's live, L-I-V-E, the number 2, LEAD.com/Leesburg. You see the website right here. So just go there. Trust me. So if you're looking to develop your leadership skills, this is exactly what it is that you want to do. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.